In this video, we will be learning some tips and tricks about garment styling. This video will help you to understand the factors that affect simulation and will cover some tips on how to improve the drape of your garments. The factors which affect simulation include arrange and prepare positions, stitching, 3D layers, fabric and material physics, additional properties like fold, shrink, iron, etc. In the 101 Garment Creation course, you'll remember there was an emphasis on ensuring a good prepare position. This is because the way your garments are prepared will affect the positioning and drape of the garment after it's dressed. Take, for example, the simple t-shirt. If we were to place the patterns further away from the body or rotated in this manner, when we dress, you can immediately see the styling and simulation of the garment does not look good. The bodice is not balanced and the neckband is colliding with the avatar's neck. It is important that your patterns are positioned close to where they will ultimately end up after simulation. You can also see the stitch lines on the garment and use them as a guide for proper prepare position of the patterns. In this case, the neckband needs to be rotated to ensure the stitches don't cut through the avatar when we dress. The garment now simulates smoothly and ends up much more balanced. We only need to adjust it slightly with the styling tools. Next is stitching. We can easily tell when a stitch or stitches are incorrect when we dress the garment. Incorrect or missing stitches usually cause issues like puckering, gaps, or collisions. Take, for example, this garment. We can see it has puckering around the side seams. Sometimes puckering might be a cause for the fabric sticking to itself and can be pinched out by using the styling tools. However, if you are not able to resolve it using pinch, there's a high possibility the stitching is incorrect. Let's look at the same edge on the 2D window, and we can check if there are missing or additional edges, incorrect stitch measurements, or even flipped stitches. A 3D layer is another factor that can affect how a garment simulates. If we have an incorrect 3D layer, this may cause collision issues like you can see here. In this case, we have forgotten to change the 3D layer of the pocket pattern to a higher number, hence it collides with the bodice patterns. 3D layers are especially important if we are creating multi-layered or more complicated garments like lined jackets. One easy way to ensure that we have the right 3D layer is to utilize colors to make the layers more visible. We can change the colors of the pattern so each layer has a unique color. We can also easily spot collision issues in the 3D window if the patterns are different colors. Next is fabric and material physics. We all know that different fabrics will give a different drape and look to the garment. It is important to ensure that we are using the correct materials before making styling changes. If we make styling changes first, then change the fabrics, the simulation of the garment may adjust and we may need to repeat some of our styling actions again. Lastly, if we have applied or added any additional properties to the garment, it will affect the simulation. For example, if we have accidentally added a shrink to the side seam, we will notice this in the draped garment. If the stitches are correct, the next thing to check are edge properties. Great, now that we understand the different factors that impact simulation, let's run through some additional tips and tricks. At times, we make minor mistakes when creating our garments, like a misplaced stitch or a less than optimal prepare position. It's not always needed to resimulate the entire garment from prepare. We can utilize the Use in 3D setting. This option can be found in the Piece Context view under Draping Properties or in the Styling pane. With the Use in 3D option, we can easily reset only the chosen pattern to its prepare position. Select the pattern we want to reset, then disable and enable Use in 3D. Here we can make the necessary changes before dressing again. This can also be useful if we forgot to stitch a pattern and it falls to the floor. If we were to stitch and dress, the pocket will jump outwards and may cause collisions, which we need to pinch out. Instead, disable Use in 3D, then enable it again so the pocket resets to the original position. Another useful way of utilizing Use in 3D is to focus on specific parts of the garment, one at a time. For example, we can choose to remove the pockets and the sleeve of this garment first, and focus on improving the styling of the bodice. Once we are happy with the simulation of the bodice, we can enable Use in 3D on other patterns and dress again. Lastly, Use in 3D is great if we want to create different styling options. For example, a no pocket variation or a sleeveless variation. Below the simulation bar, we find the one-step simulation button. This option allows us to dress the garment one simulation iteration at a time. If we pinch the garment and click Dress, the garment will continue to simulate and the pinched area will fall back into place. If we pinch the garment and click the one-step simulation button, the garment will only go through one iteration of simulation, and we can keep clicking to slowly approach the intended styling. This method allows for more control over the simulation. We can add a keyword shortcut for one-step simulation. Go to Edit Keyboard and search for one-step. You can add a key of your choice. We recommend using 1 so it's easier to remember. With the keyboard shortcut created, we can now use the 1 key to carry out the one-step simulation. In this video, we've learned how to improve garment simulation by understanding what factors affect it and useful settings to control simulation with more precision. For more information, visit support.browseware.com.